goes, hey, can you do me a photo or I'd be like, you know.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will you please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, I'd like to make a correction. It's a little after 6 now, not 7. Okay. We have no privilege of the floor this evening for anything, but I would like to just give a brief summary of things that took place over the weekend. Well, I should say Sunday, Monday, and part of Tuesday that I attended. I can only find the program wherever I put it. Well, that's typical of me. Anyway, I guess I can remember most of it. So I attended the Winter Legislative Conference of the NICOM in Albany, and it was, I think, go from the minute I got there. For 4:30, we attended a couple of, well, they had 4 policy sessions. They're all concurrent, so you had to pick one. I think I took the one on downtown revitalization. Wasn't really a whole lot that we hadn't heard before there. The others didn't interest me at all. Then after that, we had a social hour and everything. Got the heck out of that one. But the next morning, we started off with a session that obviously the people from NICOM, the president, and the executive director spoke, along with the deputy director. And they had the state comptroller come in. He gave a real nice speech. Everything. It was pretty informative. I was surprised. Actually, I was a little bit impressed, actually. So then he was followed by the majority leader from the Senate, Senator Flanagan. And that was a typical political speech. And then we went to a couple of sessions, and one that, I'm just trying to see where the heck they all went. Anyway, we had 4, I think, that during the day. Here it is, right in front of me. The first one I went to was health insurance, generating real savings from shared services. Surprisingly, contrary to what a lot of people think, there are no restrictions on setting up how do you call them? Consortiums. Yeah. Cooperatives, anyway. A lot of people seem to think that there are, and we had people from the Superintendent of Health for the Department of Financial Services, which oversees, financial institutions and insurance companies and all that kind of stuff. They said they couldn't find anything in the regs. Said they can't be done. There are some restrictions.
So you're saying like team up with let's say Mount Morris or other places to get bigger.
Yep, better prices. They were talking.
Goes through their own. They go through.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's through POMCO, so I don't know what it is.
So they had a couple guys from the Department of Financial Services speak to us about that. It was really interesting stuff. There are actually 3 programs they were talking about. Don't ask me to recite all of the details, but it was a what they call a municipal cooperative program, the one which they were pushing, and there was another one, I forgot the number on it. So general government municipal law. It's like 5G or something. Don't ask me to remember it, but they were talking. They said they got all these reports back from the shared services committees that each of the counties were supposed to have and submit stuff on, but they only got 30-some responses back. Livingston County was one of the counties that did respond, and one of the items that they had was coming up with some sort of consortium for these for health care. And turns out that Tompkins County, over around Ithaca in that area, has a program. And they just set it up not too long ago. It's on, I forgot how they established it. It has some geographical limitations, like they all got to be contiguous, touching one another. I talked to the mayor of Union Springs, which is in the next county over, closer to us, I think. And he said, boy, it saved them a lot of money. He said, where people were paying, well, like we pay double digits each year on the increases, they're only seeing increases of 4 or 5%. So I said, well, we need to take a look at this. There are no geographical limits. There is a limit on the number, I shouldn't say a limit, there is a minimum number of people you have to have enrolled. And they said 2,000, that can include retirees. So that's going to up the bank a little bit. You cannot include dependents, though. It's just actual employees or retired employees that you count. So, you know, if you have the whole county involved, it still might not be 2,000. They weren't sure if you could include school districts.
I was gonna say school districts are where you're
Yeah.
gonna find numbers.
But you could go to surrounding counties and involve them in the thing. It would end up being something like NYMER, what you'd end up having, where NYMER's on property insurance and liability insurance, stuff like that. This would be for health service. So I sent off an email this afternoon to Ian Coyle, told him what I knew, see what happens. I think it's a good idea if we can knock down our insurance rates on health insurance. That'd be
Last year,
great.
30,000 was something that went up.
That's a lot. Ridiculous. Some of the other ones they had during that time slot were crisis communications and the DRI, which is the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, like Canandaigua got there. Canandaigua or Geneva, I forgot which one. Yeah, I got about $10 million. I know Geneseo was submitted for it last year, but they didn't even get it. Not really in a great need there. In the afternoon time, we listened to the Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul. That wasn't bad. She didn't take any questions, so. And then in the afternoon, we also had, the one I went to is the state response to the federal tax reform. And they had a guy from the governor's office there speak about the state itself. But then they had this other guy, E.J. McMahon. He's from the Empire Center for Public Policy. So we got two different views on, both of them are against the current tax policy that's been, well, was passed by the federal government, but for different reasons. Then there was sexual harassment and small cell companies. And the last one I went to was New York Municipal Energy Program, which is about program, let's see, the New York Municipal Energy Program, NIMEP, allows cities and villages to jointly purchase electricity in another consortium. So the board doesn't mind, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. They had a guy from, actually a couple guys from this Good Energy, which are state consultants to the state on this. And I was, again, talking with the mayor from Union Springs, which is about the quarter of the size of Dansville, probably a little over 1,000 people, and they don't have much of a downtown or anything. But he said, you know, you got to pay money. Oh, don't pay money into that one, I don't think. It's the other one. But you, no, I'm confusing the programs. But anyway, they're just starting in New York on this program. And I said, we'll take a look at it maybe. The other one that I did get feedback on from the mayor from Union Springs was smart street lighting. I talked a little bit with Scott about it this afternoon, but it's replacing all of our street lights with LEDs. I think we have to pay for the bulbs. The mayor, Union Springs mayor, said in the first year they got their money back.
Yeah, I know, because that's a hefty bill that we pay.
Mm-hmm. He said he saved in the first year about $4,000. And I said it's not a real big community, so you could probably conceivably save a lot more. Can't be going like this. It's going to be unsustainable after a while. And what else do they have? Oh, abandoned properties again, which was looked at. But then that night we had a reception over with the governor. Got to see his new dog. Got to listen to him talk about himself, how great he is.
Wonderful. I might have skipped
Which
that.
governor was that?
Which governor?
I probably would have. I might have went to McDonald's that evening for dinner.
Anyway,
I might go.
so it turned out to be a good evening or a good day. It was very busy. It just seemed like there was nonstop. You didn't get a chance to suck in any air. You went from one thing to the next as fast as you could snap your fingers. But I'll take a look into some of these efforts. I did get some information before I left on the lighting issue from NYSEG, so I've got to check with them a little bit more and see what we have to do to get involved. Nobody has any objections to that. I'll move forward. Anything that saves money. And maybe I can get somebody to come from the state, NIMAP, but talk about the energy shared services. That'd be nice. And with that, let's see, where do we go? Anything from on your side of the fence, Megan?
Just depending on when you want to talk about everything, we did.
Well,
have-
reorganization, we'll hold off a little bit on that one. We'll listen to it tonight, but is Matt coming? We're going to have a closed session on that.
For what?
For the reorganization downstairs.
Oh, right. No, we do have that letter from Monica. I don't know if you want to
Yes,
talk about that.
we can go ahead and talk about that.
Okay. I don't remember Monica's last name.
Fru,
Monica Fro.
yeah.
With ARC contacted me yesterday. And they're trying to place some of their folks in different working environments. And they've requested is there anything that we have, any hours we would be able to give? They do cleaning at a fire hall right now. They do some hours at a Tractor Supply, and there are a couple other things. The letter's up on the share folder from her. And one of the things, she had reached out to Robin as well, so Robin called me as well. And one of the things that he had thought of was the shredding that we have with the records management, because we do have documents to be shredded. I'm okay with it. I'm happy, doing our part and being able to provide that, but it is up to the board because of liability. Even though they would name us as additional insured on their policy, I'm sure there are still some liability issues. And then also the documents that we would be shredding are confidential documents. So it's something that you guys can discuss. If it's something that we want to move forward with, I think what I would do is one day a month, and I would set up a workstation right in my office, and we wouldn't have them in the basement or anything, and we would just bring the documents up to be shredded that day.
It's not something we really need to do, but it's a nice sort of PR type of thing. We're reaching out.
I think, and they will always have somebody, the person that's doing the work, they will always have an aide, or I'm not sure what you call them, they will have somebody with them that's responsible. And, I think in the end, I think it will save us time, but we would just want to make sure that we set it up right so that they're in a comfortable location, preferably right in the office so that I'm there if there's any questions. And, we would have the specific documents there to be shredded.
Any thoughts, comments? Opposition?
I think as long as somebody's working with them, this confidential stuff, I mean.
That's the only concern I would
if there's
have.
somebody near them, like semi-supervising. But if you're gonna double your work on it, because you're gonna stop doing it too. Probably.
And what I was thinking I would do is set them up right in my office, right in the back office. So that
How many
that
hours would it be?
There. I was thinking it would be once a month, and probably, I really don't think any more than 4 hours in a day. I think that would be plenty. I would talk with Monica more about it, but I think that would be enough.
Yeah, we get the newspaper come in and
If they
take a
thought they
picture
could
too.
do a couple more hours, I'm fine with that, but whatever they think that they want to do in a day.
Say as long as it's supervised.
And they send a supervisor pretty much.
They do, yep, they do, and then also I would be there as well.
Would these just be from the homes here in Dansville?
Um,
Or are they talking about any other community? Because not all these homes are ARC. I think we got a
Right.
couple that are, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Got the one over on Elizabeth Street and the one down on Ocean are ARC. I think the rest are state, aren't they?
Yeah, so we have the state ones come in, and they come with some of the supervisors.
Mhm. They all run pretty much the same way. Yeah. Okay. Any objections?
I don't have any objections.
No.
Need a vote on that, or is,
No,
Just a
no, I
thumbs
just
up?
wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable with it.
Mhm. okay?
It'll help, then. Helps out both ends, right?
And then I'm not sure, Mayor, if you wanted to try to schedule a special meeting to amend the Cold War veteran exemption law.
Okay, well, it's the Veterans Exemption Law, isn't it, with the Cold War added in?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we passed a resolution, but probably really it should have been a change to a law, which means we've got to get a ad in the paper this week so we can hold a public hearing when we do it. And I was thinking, at the end of the month, what do we say, the 26th or 27th? Or no, 27th to 28th? Either one of those days okay? I don't see it as a big issue. It wasn't when we worked on the resolution,
It's
but,
due to the county if we change it by the end of the month.
yeah, which would be the
So,
28th.
yeah.
So we'd have to do it on the 27th at the latest.
And that's just because they want to get going on their final assessment rules.
We just check my schedule real
That
quick.
should be good. I might call, but Dan knows how that goes.
Yeah, okay.
We pass the buck.
Hey, you never know what's gonna be going on.
And then there is a sample law that I just typed up quick that that's what you guys could approve, that's in the share folder, so you can read it.
I'm available the 27th or 28th.
Okay, let's do it the 27th then.
Time.
We could do it right after, what's your earliest y'all can get there?
4 o'clock.
How's that for you? 4:30?
That's good. Hopefully that-
4? Okay, let's,
4:15.
4:15 then.
Okay.
Meet in the middle.
Not 4:20, 4:15.
Just have to notify the other two. Hopefully, Trustee
How long
Nagel
will
will
it
be
be?
here long enough to hear public input and then make a decision. 10, 15 minutes, I would
And I don't think
expect.
anyone's gonna go against it.
I don't think so. 10, 15 minutes, we should be done, I would think, somewhere around 4:30.
It's official. The 27th at 4:15.
Okay. Alrighty. Here we go. And yaddy-daddy-dada. See the codifications moving along. We're down to what, the last item? And we should be able to. Did you talk with Scott about the other two?
No, not yet.
Yeah, you can talk to him afterwards or tomorrow morning. Yep,
But yeah, we are on track to meet the deadline.
okay. And online payment, you're still working on that, right?
I am still doing some research on that. I want to talk with Livingston County Real Property, because that's where we get our tax program from. And then I also want to talk with Williamson Law Book, because they do have options in both software programs to input credit cards, and I just want to make sure that I'm going in the right direction to begin with these companies that I'm talking to, and with what their softwares can do. And we are trying to schedule additional training on the water and sewer software for next month with Williamson Law Book, and hopefully that, if they schedule that, that can turn into that meeting as well with them.
This payment process that doesn't cost us anything, does it?
No, it would actually go on to the individual that's paying.
But even the setup, we don't have to worry about that?
No.
Okay.
No. And we would have the option, initially we had talked about only taking online payments, but we would actually have the option of taking the payments right in the office, which I think, with some other transitions that we're going through anyways, I think we might as well just move, if we decide we want to take credit card payments, we would do it in the office too.
Okay.
Because it'll take less time just to do it than to explain to somebody how to get online and do it. So.
All right. And, okay. Is that it?
And then
Nothing else.
I did do a monthly report, so there's some other information in there, but it's required now, but you guys can get on at your leisure and read through it.
And you did talk with Liz up in Wayland on the assessment of the wells,
I did,
and she indicated that, yes, it does seem exorbitantly high.
yes.
She doesn't know why. I suspect it goes back to the water wars back in the 90s. It was sort of a, if you do this, we'll do that. And,
She thinks it went up also in 2010, that she was gonna look
yeah,
at
may
that.
have. When did-
And right now, the village pays $30,000 in taxes a year on the wells. They're assessed at almost $1 million.
Was it
So,
about-
so that's what we're doing, is we're trying to get the assessment lowered, which sounds really positive right now, and we'll know for certain whether or not we have to actually go through the grievance procedure. The first week in May is when we'll know if they're just gonna do it, or,
That's what, 4 acres?
yeah.
Mostly swampland.
But it's not for sale.
It's literally in a swamp.
I mean, are these just normal wells? I mean, I've heard about the wells, but I've never been up to the wells to see them.
They're just larger than normal, large wells, produce a lot of water. Other than that, nothing there, a couple walls, that's it. I don't know why it's assessed at $1 million.
So she's gonna research it. She hasn't run into something like this before. Obviously, it's rare, and the wells in Wayland, they're exempt, so she's not sure that she can use those as a comparable because their assessment might not be where it should be either. So she has a consultant that she can go to that's gonna help her look into it. And, like Mayor Vogt said, she feels that they're too high, so.
What she feels and what they'll do are always gonna be two ends of the spectrum, because you're talking about $30,000. And
Well, you gotta hope they'll be fair.
So, and we'll know that first week in May whether or not we have to move forward with the grievance process, and go to the grievance board of review, which is usually, I think it's like the 4th week in May. So that'll be a pretty quick turnaround once we find out if we have to do that.
Okay. That brings us up to date on your side of things.
I'm just reading down through, do we have to vote on having them, just see, beginning of this year, the county's hired a tax company or a company? Do we have to vote on that to have that done? Because, I mean, if that's a win for us.
Yeah, no, there's no vote.
Okay.
It's just really kind of cool, at least for this year, there is no additional cost to us, and, if we choose to have this company ABS, there's a letter, I think I might have uploaded it, there's a letter, from Livingston County, but if we choose to have them actually mail everything for us too, there's even a savings. I don't know, they get a discount on their postage or something like that. But we'll, at the end of the day, we'll spend less, plus my labor and Jess's labor stuffing all the bills and getting them into the mail and stuff, so it's
I
gonna,
don't see where this is not a
it's
win.
gonna save, yeah, it's gonna save a bunch of time, so I just put that in there because it's really positive.
Perfect. Yeah, we're in favor. As long as all the bills make it out.
Anybody have any questions for Megan? Okay, public safety, trustee Nagel.
Just around the corner.
Fire department.
Okay, January, we had a total of 25 calls, 1 fire, rescue, EMS, and combination of all those things, 9 hazardous conditions, the gas leaks and stuff, 4 service calls and good intent, 9. I'd like to say thanks to Scott, that one night when we were pumping that basement over on Liberty Street for about 4 hours, 5 hours, came out and helped. I guess after everything went down in the street for a sinkhole, I guess it stopped. So that was a long night.
Cold one too.
Yeah. So everything we did, it was just coming right back up. We wound up putting a baseball down with a rag and a weight on top of it to hold the water from coming up. So that worked for a little bit, but
A baseball?
yeah. Babe Ruth one. autograph. Mutual aid calls, we had 3, 2 that we went to and 1 automatic for us, for them to come to us. Response time cost me 6 minutes. We had a couple out of town, West Florida, going up to Ocean and everything. In the village, we had a total of 12. North Dansville, 6. Steuben County, 4. West Florida, 1. And that's about it. We ended the year with 51 members. A couple didn't make their training hours, so they have to make up hours, and a couple didn't do it. I do have one member who was out on disability that we have to look back at, because he's asking to come back at 50%. So I gotta take it to the department, what kind of, because if you're not 100% on the fire grounds or in the truck house, something's gonna happen. So we gotta talk on that. Do have one new member who's going through the basic exterior firefighting course right now at Hampton's Corners. And I had 2 when I was doing reports last night, stop in, asking for applications.
Good.
So, that's been good.
It's in that game, eh?
And fire prevention grant opened up Monday, so I'm gonna put in for that, for the fire prevention program. Hopefully we can get something add on, or maybe get a new Sparky or a Freddy or something. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Glenn? Mr. Rockington, ambulance.
Okay, happy to see you. Hey, happy to see you too. Happy to see you too. Okay, basically runs generated by Livingston County for us was 124. Out of those 124, 119 were actually requests for service, okay? As far as total calls covered, 106 calls covered. We dropped only 2 calls, which was,
Okay.
we dropped only 2 calls, which was awesome. Meaning our coverage rate was 98%, and our year-to-date is 98% so far, okay? Service calls year-to-date, 119. As far as locations go, Town of Dansville, we had 15 there. Town of Groveland, we had 2. North Dansville, we had 8. 5 in Ocean, 10 in Sparta. We never go to Springwater anymore. We actually had 2 in Wayland, 8 in West Sparta, 65 in the village of Dansville, and 1 in the village of Mount Morris. Let's see, as far as hospitals went, as far as destinations went, Noyes was the most popular destination as usual, with 69. We had 26 refusals and standbys. St. James took 1 of our patients, Strong took 8, Wyoming County took 1, and 12 were canceled. Either en route or on location. Any questions? Good. That 98% was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I was surprised.
So you dropped 2?
That's it. County took 2 from us. That was it. We haven't had anybody else come in. We went to Whalen a couple times. And that was it. We dropped 7 second rig calls, but I don't count those because they're second rig calls. Our first rigs were already out on calls, either within Dansville or our service area. So I don't count those. So things are looking up for my court. I'm very ecstatic.
Good. Skip, you got anything to add?
The only thing I
Oh,
have
sorry.
is,
You got something else, Larry?
Yeah, well, he can do the insurance part, I'm gonna do the truck part.
Okay.
Basically, 5281 is really up there as far as mileage goes, and, you know, it's starting to give us problems. So, I'm gonna have a talk with Shannon, and I think next month we're gonna put together a truck committee and start specking out another ambulance. I'm actually going to talk to Bill Letier, he's our dealer, and, you know, see what's around that's used also. See if we can find anything halfway decent. I don't expect, you know, have a new rig overnight, but maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months from now, you know, be strongly thinking about it.
One of the things that got talked about under Jackson was the possibility of maybe just replacing the chassis and everything, and, you know, and you put an old box on it, how it,
We looked at that and, didn't really think that was such a good idea because a lot of issues also lie in the box. The box on 5281 was actually making a squeaking noise, which is weird because when we went down and looked at them, when AEV were building them, they were basically a solid construction. I mean, they had a container sitting on top of one to show us how strong it was. And if that box is squeaking already, it sounds like maybe a welder or something popped loose. So we're not sure. I mean, it's not to a point where it's unsafe to drive, but I get complaints when people drive that there's some squeaking in the back. Bill's had into a shop a couple of times and hasn't really seen or heard it, but everybody else seems to. So basically going the used route, if we can find something used. I mean, we don't want to be multicolored like Mount Morris used to be, purple and blue and all the other colors they had. We like to just see if there's anything out there, with decent mileage that, some town couldn't afford or that they swapped out for a new rig themselves.
Or even a 17 or, something sitting on a lot waiting to go. And try to stay with a similar style of what we got. That's the general consensus. They seem to be friendly for people to drive it.
Any questions about that so far before I move on to my next thing? Okay, and then there was an issue with MedX. Basically what happened was EMS charts they've been having issues for like the last month or so. Apparently they archived some of our charts, and when they archived some of our charts, basically MedX no longer has access to them. So basically I've got to call and talk to EMS charts. Me or Shannon got to call and talk to them and have them unarchive those charts so MedX can get at them so we can get paid.
How many are we talking?
They didn't give us a total. I just got an email. Gary forwarded me an email, explaining what was going on with it.
hard to get paid if you don't have the stats to work with.
Isn't this on MedX? It's not on us, right?
No, it's on EMS charts. MedX can't see the charts to build.
No, I know, but MedX is the one that archived them, right?
No, EMS charts archived them. It was something within EMS charts that did it. MedX is saying EMS charts did it. When I talk to EMS charts, I'm sure they're going to say MedX did something. So.
Well, no matter
Regenerate them so that we can get paid, right?
Exactly, that's all I want.
Okay.
Any questions so far?
No.
We accept donations now.
You got more, I can tell. What's next?
Now's it Skip's time?
Yeah, now it skips time, yeah.
Most of the people don't know that I am the liaison for the workman's comp. I've been doing the audits with them. I guess there's been some questions from the county on how many people in our court are receiving the stipend program. Basically, in a nutshell, it's none of their business at this point, other than, at this point, we are self-insured.
Right.
So whether we receive a stipend program or we're volunteer, we're covered under our policy. So I think what the county was looking for is how many people are getting paid. We want to make sure that the other ones are covered. I think Larry fielded a bunch of questions on it. So we're replying back to them that we are self-insured.
Basically, her response to me was they need all this information, because I just thought they were asking for a lot of information. They want to know what vehicles we got, what the mileage is on them, and so forth. How many volunteers we got, how many paid people we got. As far as we're concerned, all we have is, we have 50 volunteers, that's it. Nobody really gets paid. This isn't a full-time job for them. Basically, they're just getting the stipend program. Her response to me was, basically they request that information, it's for, grants and whatnot.
Grants for who?
Apparently grants for the county. I mean, because it's not doing us any good. So this was her response. You guys ever heard the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer?
Mhm.
That's how I feel in this situation. I just, they say that they're willing to help us. We actually had a meeting with her and Dr. Farney yesterday about upcoming training, and with Dr. Farney, he's a nice guy, genuine, but with her, I'm just very wary of her.
This is Karen.
Yeah, I'm very wary of her because of the insurance thing. So, you know, there's just something that doesn't sit right with her, you know, anytime she's in our base, and, you know, Shannon seems to agree.
So I guess the point I'm trying to get across, and I've got a copy of our insurance for you. I don't know if there's gonna be any discount if you talk to the county saying, well, the ambulance corps is insured, are we paying insurance to you, insurance money to them for us? I don't know if there's gonna be a savings, because I think it's a big enough pool that our 50 people, it isn't gonna make a difference. But we are covered. I've been over and over it with the workman's comp to make sure that everybody's covered.
Regardless of their status.
Right, and it's not based on the amount of people, it's based on the amount of ambulances. So we could have 100 people and all 100 are covered. I think that's why we're paying a higher rate. It also includes our pickup that we own. And if anybody's on the gator responding with that, everybody's covered. So I just wanted to give a copy to Megan, I would assume.
Yep, that'd be good.
And I've got an extra one if
If
you
they
want.
say anything on the ambulances, they can ask us about that.
Right, absolutely.
Those are ours, so,
Absolutely.
yeah, the rest of it's yours.
So I've been over it a million times just to make sure our ducks are in a row, and I'm doing the audit every year, and it's basically, they come in and make sure there's 2 ambulances, a pickup and a gator there, and that's about it. Last time I did it online, they didn't even come down, so. I just wanted to cover that, just so you guys knew where we were at.
Okay.
That's all I got, unless you got some questions, or, and anybody can call me at any time if you're not sure of the insurance part of it.
Okay. Nothing? Department heads have anything?
Always
Hey,
got nothing.
It's been pretty quiet,
yeah. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
all right.
Unless you want to stay longer.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out too.
I got a promise.
Oh, boy.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still got time for run and get those flowers.
Been there, done that. I'm out of the doghouse.
We did our Sunday, we're good.
She got her
Okay.
flowers- She got her flowers at work today.
Good.
Make it hurt on the rest of us.
Right.
Thanks.
Have a good one, gentlemen. Okay, chief.
Short and sweet.
Well, just let me say, Tammy was out today because of a sick child, so I haven't had a chance to look at her report either, so haven't looked at much of anything
But
today.
Are we skipping past her? Can we discuss that? Are we going to Charlotte, or can we come back to Tammy's position?
We can talk about it now if you want.
So,
Go and put some glasses in.
I got an issue, all right? And I guess
Is this about individual or is this about operations?
more of operations, maybe,
Okay,
things like that. Yeah, not individual, that would be not very
not
good. That would-
appropriate here, yeah.
Yeah. So it came to my attention, well, actually, because I walked the village too, and I seen a fence. Let me back up.
I know what you're talking about.
I seen what appeared to be some sort of a makeshift barrier. And I did not, I kind of looked at it, and it's over on Clay Street, and I was like, someone had stacked up some pallets to make a fence. So I ventured into the whole, is that, you know, a valid fence or whatever? And upon my questioning, you know, because I sent out an email, and I guess, you know, of course, it was, to answer that question, it was to try to throw someone else under the bus, you know, whatever. It was kind of convoluted. There's nothing. Now, I know that when we lived on Prine Street, that my mother wanted to put a fence up, so she had to come in and get a permit to put the fence up. And once she did that, because it was going down a lot line, there was regulations that stated when it's so far from the road, it has to be a certain number of feet, and then it can go up to 8 feet, it basically laid out construction material, whatever. Now, that obviously did not go away here in in my tenure of being here on the board, but at some point that must have went away, because we're no longer doing.
The permit went away, yes, it was under Mayor Dixon's regime.
Yep. And so now we have this makeshift fence going up that I guess is made out of wood, so I guess it could be claimed to be out of the same material. But in my estimation, it's not really, we worry about a lot of things within the village to keep the village looking good, and this, in my estimation, is not something that is good for the area. Now, this strummed another conversation because, of course, it was cover this with cover something else, which came back to time of sale inspections.
Yep.
And if we had been doing the time of sale inspections, some of said people that were run over with the bus would have known at that time that maybe the fence was not correct, but we didn't do any. Well, and recently it was brought to our attention that we didn't need to do these things, blah, 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 and we actually did away with them, which now I second guess the fact that they were stopped, because I guess to begin with, they weren't being done. And so it's just brought up a whole big kind of snowball, which took me to the report in which the more you look at it, the report doesn't show what we're actually doing, it's showing what actually has been done over the previous year. So my point is we've allowed things to snowball out of control to the point where it's okay to use pallets to make a fence, but we've got away from time of sale
Right.
things. We've cashed in on a policy where someone comes in and has to get, to put a fence up, you need to get a permit. I think that somewheres, and obviously before you, it was during one of the previous mayors, it's spun out of control. And now I think that it needs to be addressed, because I don't live on that street. I don't have to look at that street, but I do walk down that street, and it's horrible looking.
I agree with you.
And if there was a permit that you had to get to put the fence in, again, I don't care if the permit is free, but to put a fence up, come on in, pay $1. I don't care. Whatever we have to do, that is unacceptable to me, because if we're gonna worry about the dude who's got 6 inches of weeds on the corner of his house, and that's an issue, that fence is an issue. Now, I just wanted to speak that because I didn't realize you didn't have to come in to get the fence permit. I only knew that you had to get the fence permit when we put the permit in, or the fence in on 39 Price Street, because again, we went through that process. So, I'm open into looking into why that went away, bringing it back up and seeing if it needs to be reinstalled. The fact that if you want to put a fence in, no problem. It's not going to cost you any money, but you need a permit for it.
Yeah.
So that it's constructed out of fencing material to the specifications within the village.
Looking at the zoning law where all that information is at, there's nothing to restrict them from doing that. Because I brought this code officer in and talked to her about it after I had heard about the problem. In fact, I went over and checked it. It doesn't meet height. She said it was 36 inches high. It's not. It's about 42. So that's already 6 inches above minimum height. Now, your corner post can be a little higher, stuff like that, but the fence itself has to be 36 inches. It doesn't meet that. So that's one violation on that fence right there. So if we're going to make an issue out of somebody else's fence being too high and use that as an excuse for not enforcing the other thing,
But my point was that should have been caught at the time of sale,
and it wasn't.
and you got to show up to do it.
Yep.
So if we're not doing our job,
But, and also that other fence was probably there long before the law even went into
I know,
effect.
I'm not sure, but I know that
No, but it
fence
was
has been
that-
there a long time, because it was there a long time ago,
Yeah.
because I grew up the street from
Yeah.
it. So that's just my issue on that fence, the fence issue, and I think that, not that you're trying to make more work for someone or less work for someone, but in the end, if we're trying to do beautification of the village, it's not being met.
I agree.
So,
You know where he's talking about, Norm?
Haven't seen it, but I can swing
Yeah, you
it.
can drive over,
Sounds like I won't miss it.
you won't miss it.
23.
Looks like pallets standing on
25.
end.
I think 27 clay.
Play.
Yeah, a dog probably built something that good.
It's pallets that are end to end, and it's just, you know, again, it is horrendous.
And on top of that, isn't it, I think it's secured to the neighbor's house.
I actually brought that up too. I said, how can that even meet lot line violation? Because it's not even on their lot, because it does attach to the house. And I actually said that when I came in and we were discussing it, but, again, I think if we had it where someone had to come in and get a permit for a fence, and if it was free, I don't care, as long as they had to come in so they would get the requirements of what it was, and it was set forth what it can be constructed with, because, I mean, how can all of us try to make our houses nicer than your neighbor puts that up?
It's not very sturdy either. I shook it. It shakes. I mean, it's not gonna fall right over, but it's like that.
So, that's my one issue that I have,
On
and,
fences. It's your one issue on fences.
that's just one issue, that fences, we'll just hit this check.
Something else?
At this point, Mr. Mayor, we can move forward, I just wanted to, I think it needs to be addressed with Tammy, and that law can be researched of what it was, and can be brought back before the board, and
Yeah, I was in the meeting, so it was sometime after, well, it wouldn't have been after, it was sometime before she was hired. I think I was working at the paper at the time. So it would have been before 2009 probably. And I remember them having the discussion, and it was, say, done by her predecessor. So she just recommended it to the board went along with it. It also included not taking fees for roofing, same time.
which is
Yeah,
fine.
you still had to get a permit for that, but there was no permit for it.
I got no issue with someone who wants to redo their house, and, you know, you wanna make sure it's done right, so it's done, you don't have to come in here and pay a fee, but,
I think the same thing, if you have a permit, whether you charge somebody or not, at least they come in, they got certain specifications, you can list them right on the permit. And they
then it
got-
can be checked.
And I read something somewhere, and it may have been somebody else's law, but it said you had to build a fence out of certain materials. Ours says that, but it's not really, doesn't say anything about finished material. And up to community standards, whatever standards we're talking about there, that's, leaves it wide open, but you could still list something that could exclude pallets. Because we got at that gentleman on William Street, having that big pile of,
Stack your pallets like this,
Yeah.
that's the law. You stack them like this, they're okay.
And
Makes
it's not fair.
Well,
And that fence needs to be taken down, because and I'm sorry about the other one, but the other one, if there's an issue, then,
the other one had no problem with that, as long as everybody was treated the same way.
well, and here's the other issue. If there's a problem with a fence,
Mhm.
you can certainly come in and you can say, hey, look, we understand that it could, monetarily, it could be an issue or whatever, and there's a period of time here, whether you say, okay, spring of the following year. This one here was just put up, that one needs to come down because it's not safe, but let's say there's another fence that doesn't meet the right thing. You give them ample amount of time, and you say, hey, the fence needs to be moved. You don't say, hey, it's gotta be done right this second, but, you know, we're gonna give some time, and the fence can be moved, and we'll move forward. But if we're not checking this, we're not doing time of sale stuff anymore, we're not checking fences, everything's in violation. What's the sense of doing anything around here if people can just run wild and do what they want anyways?
I agree.
Might just, well, let's go home.
And the other thing too is you gotta remember, just because somebody else got away with it for whatever reason, doesn't mean that because you've been talked to, you can get out of it.
But at the time, that time of sale should have been done, it would have
Oh
been
yeah,
noted.
if had it been done,
This fence is illegal, it needs to be moved, and the owners of the property, the homeowners and everyone, could have very well worked it out at the time.
but you can't use that as a defense not to enforce the
And
other
that's what
one.
I seen was, it was a defense of why I didn't,
Yeah.
wasn't gonna do it, my job is because, well, look at this other one. Well, there's always those circumstances, but address them, bring them forward, and move on. So, I don't wanna I'm good with the fences, but it'll come back up.
Yep,
well,
Okay.
Megan mentioned the codification, and in that process of the codification, obviously there's
that's been.
I think that's how it came to my attention, was through that.
Yeah, I think so, and that's been no small feat getting through that process, but it will be nice when it's done. But in the process, we found a lot of things, well, I shouldn't say a lot, we found a number of things that we want to address, and one of the things we were gonna bring to your attention to see if you want to entertain it was, Megan and I talked about offense law, cleaning up what we had.
Separate from the zoning?
Separate from zoning, or at least, if it's separate from zoning, it's gotta mirror zoning. Or establishing one within the zoning, I'm not sure, we didn't get that far with it, we just, it was one of our notes on the page, if time permits, with the rest of what's gotta be done if time permits.
Well, we may have to wait until after get through this step anyway. But I think you're right, that it does need to be addressed.
Well, and my thing is,
It's just
I don't care if
ridiculous.
that thing's painted or not painted. They're pallets.
Yeah.
And it looks horrendous. I don't care if you go paint that thing white, gray, yellow, or striped. It's horrible. That's just my opinion.
I think it's shared probably pretty much by everybody in this room, I would think. Yeah. Hillbilly's still a hillbilly. That's what it reminds me of. Okay,
Now we got to you, Chief. Sorry.
Yeah.
Mine's short and sweet, I think.
good.
So, I threw out an email about a dumpster is gonna be parked on the street side.
I wrote back where?
Where? I didn't see that yet,
On the
but,
side of the street.
I-
where? I believe I was told it's Cottage Street, so,
Okay.
probably 7 to 10 days is what I was told, which is a little longer than I prefer, but, they're trying to unload the house, trying to sell the house, get it cleaned up for sale, so it's one of those.
I don't have any problem with that. It was like, I did the same thing out in front of my house. I had all that construction stuff I wanted to get
Someone's
rid
doing
of.
urban renewal and taking
Yeah.
care of stuff. How do you stop them? I mean,
We had it out here when they were working on the bank, stuff like that. So it's just
Just-
part of doing business.
and they're letting you know up front.
Yep.
I'm sure the neighbors, when it's all cleaned up and gone, the neighbors are going to be happier.
So they called Tammy called me, and she called me back, told me, yeah, go ahead, and so, I'm not sure when it's gonna show up, but I'll be out there for a few.
That's okay.
It's not gonna snow during that time period anyways.
Not at all.
Gotta intend to put that thing on.
You want to put that in writing? Oh, you're going to be. You're on the,
It's recorded, it's.
yeah, it's on the record now.
Business, the guys are, it's really enjoyable to watch the guys work through a number of investigations they've got going on right now that are across the spectrum. So that's very enjoyable to watch the guys' experience and training and feeding off each other's training experience come together, and they're doing a good job with a number of things right now. And then the only other thing I have is Lexipol, the policy company is coming out next Wednesday.
And what are they going to do?
We're hopefully gonna nail down exactly what the program is, which I already have a pretty good handle on that, but what I'm more interested in is pricing and things of that nature, so.
Have you got the other ones on board?
Mount Morris is coming, Avon's coming, Geneseo was going to come, but he's on vacation, so he won't be able to make it, so he wants the information. We put a flyer out to all the chiefs in Western New York to see who else might be interested, and that meeting's tomorrow, so I'll put it out there again that we're doing that next Wednesday at 11 o'clock at the library. If anybody should be inclined to come here with the rep has to say,
It's on Wednesday.
Wednesday, 11 o'clock.
That's this Wednesday or next Wednesday?
21st.
21st, okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna be at the library.
Yeah, I won't be able to make it, but I'll,
You see, like, if you were to say the following day, yes, what the time frame would be for enacting and getting things rolling, you know?
I'm aiming for June, the new budget.
Well, yeah, but the end result is if you wait till June 1st to say yes,
Oh, no.
you know,
No,
the
I
bill's
see.
gonna come in June 1st.
No, I would hope to be able to know in March that that's something we want to do, and then.
could order it.
Get
Yeah,
it going.
and then the only thing that would hold us up is the financing that would be available in June. And I only stress the financing in June, as I'm very pro paying as much of this fire truck off out of this year's budget as we can, so I would like to see us just.
We will find the money for the
Now,
procedure.
let's not worry about the fire truck, let's worry about Lexapro,
So,
Lexapol, not Lexapro.
3 months one way or the other is not gonna change anything on our end. So, we'll have that information, hopefully Wednesday, we'll nail down the details,
Okay.
or at least he'll leave with the specific questions that he needs to answer, which I'm sure he'll have in a couple of days.
Okay.
I'm guessing like $5,000 or something.
Yeah, right now, 4,800 what they're saying. I anticipate that going down.
I'm gonna say, even if it went up, 5,000 is still reasonable.
We can't do it for that in-house. You know, when you know, it's very similar to this convocation, you know, you couldn't do it.
It's
in-house.
overwhelming.
I can get the ARC guys to do it.
Maybe.
We could check,
Huh?
we could check into
Check
it.
it out.
Maybe they can grind your old ones.
Yeah, by the time, you know, by the
We
time-
won't need them for 4 hours though, it's only in about 5 minutes.
That'll be tougher because they're on stone tablets.
By the time you pull out 3 or 4 policies from other places and sort down through them and take the best pieces of all that and then reorganize it and put it out, it's super time consuming. And that's what these folks do. They do that part. They've already taken the better ideas, took out the lesser ideas, reformatted it, put it in order. And so those, which the most time consuming time, they've already done that. So they'll present you with that. And quite frankly, ideal policy, and then you just have to throw in a couple sentences here or there, ideally. I mean, obviously, the bigger, the more in-depth, there's probably gonna be maybe a paragraph here or so that has to be changed, but more simpler ones, you might have a word or a sentence that has to be changed. And then they send out, as I said before, they send out, I almost wanna say now, I'm under the impression it might be daily training messages on the policy, so the guys can answer and be up to stuff on things. And then, of course, they keep on track of changes in the law, both statewide and federal-wise, and give you those updates automatically with the suggestions of how you should tweak your policy, and you can accept or deny them and move on. So I anticipate probably in 5 years, everybody will be using it.
Okay. Any questions for the chief? Okay. Welcome, Matt. You look excited.
Yep.
I'd like to call for an executive session if there are no more questions on the public safety side of things. And if you close the door, chief, when you go out, appreciate it. Thank you. Purpose of discussing, I'm not sure how you discuss it, but it's positions.
Yeah, we just gotta turn the recorder off.
Yep.
Time is 6:57. In case anyone's wondering.
And